Okay, welcome to the show. Oh my goodness. I know I say this every single time I kick off a podcast, but I am so excited about my guest that is on today because um, there's a lot of things about her that you're going to learn today, but she's also a friend. She's become a friend. And I can call you that, can I?
100%.
Okay, good.
Please do.
Because I have a girl crush on you, and I just want to make sure I can say that.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
let me introduce everybody to Lianne Saffer. So Lianne is she's based here in Portland, Oregon, with me. She is a very well established and well loved hairdresser. Not my hairdresser, by the way. I kind of wish you were.
I mean,
Maybe
we could change that.
let's fix that. Let's
Yeah,
do
we're going to 100% change that.
that because I have a hairdresser in the desert, but I need one here.
Yeah, and it's me.
Um, and she's also obviously you've been in the fitness industry a very long time. So she's a badass burn cycle instructor. And for those of you who are listening that don't know what burn cycle is, you're missing out. But it's similar to a soul cycle, but better. Can I say that?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't
And
know.
much more
I just
difficult.
and much more difficult. Um, and the most exciting part about Leanne is that she is a newly um, I guess, well, it's not new in terms of the fact that you've been doing this, writing this for a while, but you are now a newly recognized author.
Yes, I am.
And her book was just released. When was it released?
Last Friday, the
Last
1st.
Friday. And it's in my Amazon basket. I have like 10 things I'm trying to buy, and I'm buying it today after we hang up.
You know what my favorite thing about launching is everybody sending me the picture of like, oh, I bought your book, and then seeing what else they bought with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh,
Oops.
breast milk pads. Like, what are
Oh,
you going
no.
through? So I can't
I better.
part.
I better make sure I don't send you that picture.
Oh man, I love it.
So her book is called Please Don't Send Me Flowers. I want you guys to know that right now she is sitting in Amazon on the page when you go to the page to find the book next to Glennon Doyle's book. And if you don't know who Glennon Doyle is, then I don't know where you've been, but um, I follow her. She follows me. We're buds. And the same for you. And
Yeah, total
so,
vibes. We've been hanging
um,
out for like a solid week now on the
yeah,
chat.
totally.
Besties.
So please don't send me flowers. So this is going to be such a great fun podcast that I broke out. If you're watching this on YouTube, great. If not, I'm just going to describe it to you on the podcast. So I have all of the burn cycle attire always that I wear when I go to burn cycle. And I had my burn hat on just for Leanne. And then I swapped it out and I was like, I don't know. I feel like I want to wear my sparkle sequin hat. This thing is heavy, by the way.
Yeah, it's like a neck workout.
It's like so I
I'm here
have
for
my
it.
yeah, do you love it?
I love it. I need one. Put it in your Amazon cart. Send it to me.
You know what? I got this in the desert in Palm Springs, of course, right?
It's great.
So the reason I think it's such a great hat is because, and so appropriate for this podcast, is because we are going to be talking about some really great stuff around owning your own shit, being authentic, stepping out of your comfort zone, owning your own power, letting go. We're going to talk about labels. I mean, we've got all kinds of good stuff, but this is going to be a feel good podcast. There might be some swearing because I think we both do that.
Yeah, I can't. The filter doesn't work.
Yeah, I know. So let's step it back a little bit and we'll talk about kind of your journey and what you will talk about that. But the best part of this podcast, well, you're the best part, but the second best part is that your wife is going to join us, Steph.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I'm really excited because I haven't been able to talk to her much. And I
she's the
think
best.
I think I need to go see her. She's an acupuncturist,
Yeah,
correct? Yeah,
yeah.
I need to go see her. So, so that's going to be in just a bit. But what we're going to start with is let's start with the most important thing when you met me.
Love it. Was it when you
So,
met me?
yes, and when I met you. So, Carlin, who used to work for me as a beloved friend, kept talking to me over and over and over again about burn cycle. Oh my God, Dawn. Oh my God, you got to go. And I thought, that is boring. I'm not going to get on a spin bike and just spin around for an hour. Stupid. And she's like, no, you have to come. So I asked her, who should I go to? And she was like, well, there's so many good instructors. And then she kind of whispered under, her breath. And she was like, you need to go to Lianne, go to Lianne. So you were my first teacher.
I remember it very clearly. You left an impression on me, which
Oh,
says
no.
a lot because I see like hundreds of different people a week. But I remember because you were in it, you were feeling it.
Yeah. You make me feel it. You
Well,
make people feel it in that class. You have such a gift.
thank you.
What was I doing? Was I looking like, did I look like an idiot?
You kind of looked like you were like, what the fuck is going on? But also like, I'm having a come to Jesus moment and it was all collaborating. And you're like, this is so fun, but I don't know what's happening to my body.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt
Yeah.
because it was pushing me so far out of the comfort zone physically. But what I loved about your class, what I love about you, and what I love, obviously, what I love about Burn Cycle, because this is kind of the whole recipe that she has, that she's created, is just the motivational, inspirational stuff that you start saying. So you're riding on your bike and you're going for it and you're exhausted. And then all of a sudden, there's like a moment in the middle of class where all of you teachers bust out this crazy motivational shit that I'm bawling in the corner. I'm bawling.
Mhm. Yeah.
What is that about?
Sometimes I do it. Sometimes I cry in my own class. Not because I'm so great, but it's like, oh my God, I'm saying these things that are like resonating with these people, but I feel the same way. It's like just this connection of the human experience and the human
Yeah,
spirit where we're like, oh my God, we're not alone. And she's going through that. And if she can get through it, I can get through it. And if she can get through it, I can get through it. And
I know.
it's
And
pretty
there's
incredible.
guys in the class too, right? We don't
Yeah.
want to just exclude the guys.
No, the men love it. The men love
My
it.
my
And I love the men.
husband,
Yeah.
my husband's a little weird about it. Like he went the first time and I was like, "Oh my god, did you love it? Did you love it?" He was like, "Yeah, yeah, it was a good workout." And I was like, "No, did you love like everything that they were talking about and how they make you feel and and all?" And he's like, "Yeah, that was fine."
He didn't come to my class, did he?
No.
He
He
was like,
was
he
just
needs a do over.
he just well, he goes all the time, but he just was feeling like he was there for the workout, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And I mean, it's such a guy thing,
I mean,
right?
whether he wants to admit it or not, he's having some of that seep into his brain. So
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's
he
good
lives
for
with
everybody.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I took one of Steph's class and it was the same thing. And I was like, okay, what's going on with this place? What's happening here? So, I mean, Burn Cycle has been um, such a big part of my life. And I've been so devastated that I haven't been able to come back in because of COVID. And I mean, that's been hard for you guys,
Oh,
huh?
it's the worst. Right now we're teaching to ourselves in a glass box to like a tiny little iPhone screen. Like,
Oh,
I see you, but I don't see you. And
I
this is awkward,
know.
but it's not. Like it's interesting because sometimes you still like will get a rush of that community and togetherness because you know that 200 people are going to stream it later. But when you're there all alone, it's just like, this is not how it's supposed to feel. Like, this isn't what it's supposed to be. There should be energy buzzing in these walls. So it's been hard, but I'm
It's
just thankful that people are still streaming at least. So we have something to go back to.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So okay, so how did you kind of make this evolution from the hairdressing world and you were married at the time
Mhm.
with two small children, right? And how long have you been doing hair?
Oh my God, since I was 19, 16 years.
Okay, great. And then you moved into Burn Cycle as kind of a side gig, right?
Yeah.
When did you start doing that?
So I was doing hair like on and off out of my house because I had two little kids and it somehow didn't always make sense to pay somebody and I had difficult children. So I was like, I'd rather be the one they're screaming at than hire somebody because they would just quit. Um, so I was looking for a way to kind of make a little bit of money, but also get out of my house. And
Mm,
so I reached out to a friend who had worked at a bar 3 studio, different kind of fitness studio. And I was like, hey, can you get me a job? You guys have childcare. I don't care what it is. I just need to get out of the house and I need to work out. And she's like, well, I'm actually starting a spin studio. You should come teach. And I was like, I don't talk in front of people. And like, I just had a baby. So I'm 30 pounds overweight, but okay. Um, and so that's where I started. They interviewed me and somehow saw something in me and trusted me to do that. And that's where the whole career started. And now I work for a different studio, but that was the beginning of it because they had childcare. So I could take my kids with me, I could teach a class.
Wow.
So I got my workout, I got a little bit of money, and my kids got to socialize or be held by somebody else. And then I got to go home.
Yeah.
So
When did it just literally become that place just became your family? When did that happen?
that was when I transitioned out of the first studio and into the second studio. Like the first studio I worked for was great and it was a stepping stone, but I knew that that wasn't my home and they weren't my people. And
Mm,
Burn Cycle, I had like seen them on Instagram and I'm like, I like what they stand for and like they're going to gay pride and I'm super into that, but these people aren't doing that. So I met Jesse, the owner, in a dive bar and we had the best time. And I was like, oh my God, I have to come work for you. And the
yeah.
second I stepped in to the studio, I was like, oh my God, these are my people. This is my family. I have to be there. And once I started teaching for them, I was like, instantly my classes were full. And I was like, these are people that want to lift people up. And
Hmm.
that's who I want to be around. And so from that day forward, that was, God, 5 years, almost 6 years ago. It's just been
So
all in.
so that at that point in time, you were married
Mhm,
to a man,
mhm.
and were you struggling in your marriage at that point when you came on board with Burn Cycle, or where were you at with that?
Yeah, we had been struggling in our relationship since we met each other, which
Oh,
was,
geez.
I mean, we started officially dating when I was 19, on and off, and then I got married when I was 22. But it was never a healthy relationship, and it just seemed to get worse over time, like it always does. And you just tell yourself it's going to get better. We're going to have these kids. We're going to work it out. But I was really struggling, and one of the things that I struggled with the most was our financial situation because he was very controlling over that and
Mm,
he kept a lot of it private, or if I did spend a few bucks there were questions about it. So I was like, how can I make a little bit of my own money and not have to tell him every time I buy like a diaper, because it was just this huge thing. And
mm,
so that was kind of the push for wanting a job also. But I was like, I was out, I was 2 feet out the door, but I didn't have any money to get out. So
ah,
yeah.
gotcha. Well, that's a very common situation. Lots of women have been in that situation, and men.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know.
Well, and that's, what was so hard about it is I didn't know anybody that had been in that situation. And for me, I felt a lot of pressure because both of our families were religious. And I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this because I feel so much shame and
Mm,
guilt and like saying this isn't working and this person isn't willing to work with me. Because it wasn't just the financial stuff, it was the emotional stuff too. Like, you're so crazy. I wish you could hear yourself talking right now. And I'm like, I can. I'm the one like speaking. I'm making these words and these sentences. I understand what I'm saying. But this constant like manipulative twist on my character and who I was. And
mm,
that's so hard to bring to people when you don't feel like you're going to be understood. Because I was
yeah.
like, how, he doesn't hit me. And
Mm-mm,
he's very nice and can be fun to be around. But behind closed doors, it's a totally different story.
mm. Yeah. It's the verbal and emotional abuse
Yeah.
that happens over time, and then you become used to it, and you don't think it's really a big deal.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, someone says something to you, or you notice something and you go, wait a second, or you wake up,
Totally. Yeah. And
you
I think I
know?
knew the whole time because I definitely had friends mention things. And then as time went on, I lost my friends because I wasn't allowed to do anything. But I
Mm-hmm.
I had hired a friend as a nanny.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting with her and just being like, this isn't it. Like I have these two kids now that I need to show like what a big love is and what a big life is. And I'm lying to them if I stay in this. And
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of my turning point. When Steph and I first met, I was on the outs of this marriage and I was very drawn to her. And I couldn't quite
Mm-hmm.
figure it out because I had never looked at a woman in a way where I was like, I couldn't tell. I didn't know that I was attracted to her. I was
Mm-hmm.
just drawn to her. I was like moth to a flame. And I'm like, she's so intriguing and like she's really beautiful. And I couldn't figure out what this was. Well, it turns out I was attracted to her. Took me a solid year to figure that out. But um once we did get together, people were like, well, when did you know you were gay? And I'm like, I don't, what? Like,
Yeah.
did you know you were straight? Like, I don't see myself as gay and there's no problem with that. But this is this like woman who I had this insane connection with that I couldn't stop if I wanted to, but I wasn't like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be gay today." Like, I've
Yeah.
decided I'm only gonna love women. I don't feel that way at all. So I have a really hard time around the label thing because after I fell in love with her, I found that I actually had to go through this whole coming out process that like gay people have to go through. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, whether you're gay or you're not gay, it doesn't even make any sense that I have to be nervous to tell my family and tell my friends that I'm in love with this amazing person that like
Mhm.
has my back more than anybody that I've ever met.
So it's almost like you fell in love or were drawn initially to her soul.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, she was gorgeous. And I put that together later that I was like, oh, I'm attracted to that. But it was just her spirit and her soul. Like, it was this connection that once we figured that out, like, you cannot break it. It's
I
insane.
I think this is going to be such a great topic for people to just kind of listen to and absorb, because there are so many labels.
Hmm.
We all do it, and it's just a different perspective, a totally different perspective. Because I would be thinking the same thing, like, oh, well, she's bi,
Yeah.
or or something, right? So
Now there's
it
like pansexual, like everything. I'm like,
everything,
I'm not even
everything.
educated on all the terms, and I need to get
Hmm.
there. I was doing another interview recently, and she's like, kind of went through it, and she's like, I totally agree. You're just connected to this soul, but if somebody like if you had to label yourself, and I'm like, why would I have to? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to. What I'm saying
No.
is, I don't want to, and we shouldn't have to. And if you want to, that's great. And if it resonates with you, that's great. But like, if it doesn't, that's also great.
Yeah, that's
Just love
also
who
great
you
too.
love. Don't put it in a box.
So we'll back up and we'll talk about when I was joking and saying, was it love at first sight? So you come to the studio, you become friends with her, right? Because I looked back at, I was, of course I was stalking you, and I
Yeah,
looked back at your
you and everyone else.
Instagram and I was like, um, well, kind of in preparation for our call today and our meeting today. And I was like, well, it looks like they've known each other, they've been working together a really long time, and they started out like, even there were even tags on Steph's page and your page around like, oh, my friend. And I was like, this is so cool because I feel like that's how it started. But
Totally. Yeah.
yet there was a love connection from your perspective anyway. And
Yeah.
we'll see what Steph
Well,
has to say.
I mean,
Um,
Steph loved me from the second she laid her eyes on me. And let that be known.
we're not even going to bring her in and ask her. We're just going to
Yeah.
tell her that's how it is.
She'll tell you. She'll tell you.
Well, and so you instantly had this thing and this pull, and then it took a year, you said, right? So you were still in your marriage.
Yeah. So we got together like right before my divorce was final,
Yeah.
which
So
was also really hard for me because I'm like, no, 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 I don't want that right now. Like, I can't have that right now. I'm not that I didn't want the love, but I was like, I know what the story to other people is going to be. I
yes.
know that it's gonna be that I'm leaving for this woman, and I know that it's gonna be that I'm not ready and it's a rebound, and I didn't want that. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you can't decide the timing of your life.
No. And you also get caught up. We all do this. You get caught up in the judgment part. You're like, am I going to be judged? But you're really just judging yourself, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
But I
100%.
I still do feel like I was judged. I mean, I
Mhm.
have a lot of, like, religious people around me from my past that, there were whispers and there was this and there was that, and I knew that that was already going on and, because we were so close.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, I don't want this. I don't want to deal with this, but I do want this. I want this big life. This is the person that I want. So
Yeah.
we just go for it.
So you guys get together, you blend the family. Your girls are what age again?
At that time.
Right now.
Oh, right now, June is almost 8 and Harper's 9.
Okay. So you got married 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
3? Okay.
Yeah.
God, it's gone by fast because I
I
remember when you were getting married
Yeah,
and I
that
was
was a
so
good time.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So 3 years ago. Okay. And then so now you've been together, life is going great. Probably having some difficulty blend, like with the ex being okay with the situation, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Um, well, I remember during our divorce, we told each other, like, before we introduce anybody to the kids, we need to make sure that it's like very serious. Like, you need to want to marry this person. And we also need to have a conversation about it. But I was like, oh shit, my kids have already met her because we were friends. How do I do this? So I sent him an email and I was like, hey, we've decided to be together. Just thought you should know. And he was like, cool. And I'm like, but you're not cool with it. Don't tell me it's cool. But I guess that's the best situation. Um, he had a hard time with it, but he also was dating somebody, so he didn't at the same time. He was like, "I hate you. I've moved on." And I'm like, "Good, but maybe don't hate me. That's not nice." Um, so but, it's hard it's also still hard for me to wrap my brain around the fact that he brought somebody else into the kids' lives.
Yeah.
That was, like, such a lesson for me. I'm like, I feel like I won the gold medal and brought, like, the best human ever into my kids' lives, and he feels the same way, but, like, we don't know each other's partner as well as we know
Yeah.
our partner. So, for me to have to be okay with the fact that somebody else is gonna mother my kids half the time that I don't know very well,
Yeah.
like, I have to put myself in his shoes.
Hmm.
And he knows that she loves the kids and she's an amazing woman, but it's just hard to
Yeah.
wrap.
All of that's hard.
Yeah.
In any, yeah, in any situation, whether you're with a woman or a man or whatever. Yeah, all of it's hard. How do the kids feel about Steph?
Oh my god, they love her. They've
Yeah.
known her forever though. I mean, she's been around since they don't even remember my ex and I being married. So,
Is that
I'm
right?
I'm really thankful for that, but she's amazing with them and they love her and it's great. It's fun to watch.
Well, yeah, you can see the 2, like, when there's pictures up on Instagram and stuff, and I can see you guys all together. I'm just like, they must just be having the best time.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. I
So
mean,
you have this wonderful life, you've met your soulmate, and now the only problems are, like, how you get through certain normal things during the day, right?
yeah.
And all of a sudden, something big happens and you were not prepared for that. I kind of get the feeling, I don't know you well enough on this level, but I'm going to guess that you're a planner,
A
and
little
that
bit.
you are someone that likes to have things kind of like etched out, like, I'm going to have this done by this time, and I'm going to do this at this age, and I'm going to do this at the, am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. So you were, and I would imagine a perfectionist, because you have a personality, a similar personality. So I can understand, I can relate. And so you were in a relationship where you didn't have control. Now you've got your power back. You are
Yeah.
in control and nothing is going to stop you. And all of a sudden, guess what? Leanne's not in control anymore.
Yeah, Leanne's not in control. Leanne has breast cancer. That was super fun. Um,
Breast cancer comes out of nowhere. So
out
tell
of
us
nowhere.
about that.
So that actually was discovered when we were on our honeymoon. We waited to take our honeymoon for 6 months, and there was this morning where I was like putting on my bikini. We were going to go to the beach, and I had this itch next to my nipple, and so I started itching it, and it was one of those feelings where no matter how hard you went at it, like it was never going to be satisfied. It was just like
Yeah.
itch you can't scratch, and under it was this tiny little lump, and I had been feeling very poorly for a couple years and getting a lot of tests done, and doctors are like, "Oh, you're stressed. It's
Mm.
probably just stress, like you're fine." And I kept getting sinus infections and I'm like, "No, something else is going on. This isn't normal." So, in the back of my mind, once that happened, I was like, "Shit." But I was also like, "You know what? I'm 33 years old. There's no way." So we kind of went about our trip, and then a month later I felt it again, and when I was scratching it, it felt a little bit bigger and I was like, "No, that's not right. Like, this isn't good." So I
Yeah.
went in and it was pretty immediate after that that they were like, "Yeah, you have cancer."
So I remember, you talking about it in class.
Yeah.
And it was, first of all, I don't want to get emotional, but I might. I just felt, the reason I might get emotional is just because when I think about the rawness and the authenticity that you have, and that is no bullshit. Like that's who you are. And I admire that. And that is how I try to live my life. So I get it. And I know how hard and brave you have to be that kind of person. So when you were in class and you were talking about it, um, I was emotional on the bike.
Yeah.
I got emotional because not out of I feel bad for you or anything, more like a sisterhood of vibing with someone that you know has such amazing energy, and now they're going to have to slow down.
Yeah.
So it was more that vibe that I had about it. But I would imagine that you got a lot of, hence the name of your book. I would imagine that you got a lot of, gosh, I'm
There's a lot of
so
sympathy.
sorry. Yeah. So let's talk about it. So you come home, you tell them that you are, or you tell everybody, or how did it go? Who did you tell first? You obviously
So
Steph.
yeah, Steph was with me at the mammogram. And I called Jesse, my boss, and I called my ex, and I called my dad. And I remember having this moment where I was like, what do I do? Like, I'm in front of all of these people every week, and I don't know what's going to happen because they don't tell you what stage it is or like what your prognosis is. They're just like, you have cancer. See ya. You're like,
Yeah. We'll see you
okay,
for your next appointment.
yeah,
Right.
cool. So I was like, I was supposed to teach an event that night, and I'm like, well, do I go? Do I not go? Like, but in that moment, I was like, okay, if I don't go, that's me kind of giving in, and it's going to take me down. Like, and if I do go, I have to continue to show up, and like, I know I'm going to be bald, and do people really think that's inspiring to have somebody that's so sick like leading their classes? So I had this,
Mm.
and then I asked my boss that too. I'm like, do you want me to teach? Like, is that weird? Does that look bad? And she's like, no, like, it's awesome, go for it. So I ended up going and teaching that night, and I just remember having this conversation with myself, like, I'm going to continue to show up, and I don't know what that's going to look like, and I don't know what it's going to feel like, but
Mhm.
I don't want this to be something that I have to hide, because if it's happening to me, it's happening to other people.
Probably
So
people that are sitting in your class that are on their bikes.
totally. So I was like, we need to talk about it and we need to normalize it. So I'm going to show up and I'm going to be bald and I'm going to kick your ass, and like, we're just going to go about our life. And so that's what
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. And you did kick my ass, by the way,
Yes, I did.
many
My own
times.
ass.
So I want to know, like, and I'm sure people that are listening, I mean, gosh, breast cancer is so prevalent. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, at least if there's 10 people, you know that 3 or 4 of them have breast cancer. Actually, it might even be higher than that.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I say 1 in 8, but I truly believe it's probably more like 1 in 7 or 1 in 6.
yeah. So when you get that diagnosis, and everybody handles it differently, right? How did you handle it? I mean, were you just like kind of like what you just described? I mean, you're talking more about your work and stuff, but like, Lianne, how did you like internalize that, and then come home and like look at your girls and look at Steph and figure
Yeah.
and reconcile that? Like, tell me about that.
I mean, honestly, I kind of blacked out. I mean, this might be a good time for Steph to pop in, but I was just like, okay, like when hard things come at me, at this point I had had enough come at me that I was like, here we go, like got to put my boots on, go to work, like we're going to handle this, but not knowing what the stage was, what the prognosis was. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even cry. Like, Steph and I came home, I called off my clients the whole day. I was like, I'm going to go teach the class tonight, but I need to not be doing hair right now. And we just laid in bed and didn't say a word to each other. And then we're like, maybe we should try to be normal. So we went to lunch and just stared at the wall. Like, there was nothing to say.
Hmm.
But the whole time, I'm just thinking, like, I'm going to get all these reactions. I'm going to get all this sympathy that I don't want. All I want is to, like, get this over with so I
Hmm.
can go on with my life.
Yeah. Because you don't want to slow down, because that's what
Yeah.
you want to move forward, right?
Totally. Yeah.
That's
And
what you're
like,
all about.
okay, hopefully this is the last piece of shit that's going to hit the fan and we can like get on with our life here.
Did you have a hard time kind of sitting with that and not and having to sit and just like really absorb what was going on?
Yeah, totally. Um,
Yeah.
and I was like, when do I tell people? Like, because I don't have that much information, but
Yeah.
I know that I'm going to have to stop showing up as much because I'm going to have all these appointments and this and that. So, like, what is the right thing to do? What is
Yeah.
the right way to go about it? And that those were just decisions that I had to make. And so
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell everyone. And I did. I think I waited 7 days and I just blasted social media. And I was like, look, this is what I'm going through. I don't want you to feel bad for me. I don't want you to like send me flowers. I don't want you to tell me about your aunt that had breast cancer. Like, I just
Yep.
want you to have a good time with me and like pretend like nothing's going on. Please don't rub my head.
Treat me normal.
Treat me normal, which, people still didn't do. They have a really hard time with that because they
Yeah.
can't grasp what you're going through.
Absolutely. I can't wait to talk about that because I know that's kind of the premise of the book. But here's Steph.
Here's Steph.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Steph.
Thank you for
Steph,
letting me crash the podcast.
Steph, I am so thrilled to have you on. And before you'll hear this when you hear the podcast, but we were talking about you behind your back.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Okay.
And we realized something that you probably didn't know, but we realized that you fell in love immediately when you met Lianne.
Oh, you realize that? Yes.
Yeah, didn't you love me the second you saw me?
That's actually true,
See,
which
told you.
which I'm not sure how that happened because I've never pinned myself for somebody to do that. And I always kind of made fun of people who did that or said that they did.
Yeah.
But it happened to me. And it's the funniest part is that I always sort of hoped for that in my life and asked for it. And uh, left many relationships knowing that it wasn't the feeling I wanted. And so when it happened, I was like, holy shit, this is actually the feeling that people
Yeah.
talk about. And I was no longer in the wheel. It
Isn't
was
that something?
it was totally out of my hands.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a long time and sometimes people never find that. I mean, it took me a really long time. I still talk about how when I first kissed my husband that there literally were fireworks and I was the same way. Like people would be like, "Oh, when I kissed my, boyfriend or my husband or my girlfriend, this is," and I would be like, "Oh, please."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I remember it like it was yesterday and we still have that. And we've been together, 18, 19 years, whatever the heck it's been. And it's really special when you realize like that's the love you've been waiting for,
Yeah.
right?
I know that. I mean, I know that I'm the lucky one. Like I know that we are the
Oh,
lucky ones who feel that. I
yeah.
hope everybody finds that. It's incredible.
Well, so we're going to back up and go back. We're going to circle back to what we were just talking about when you came in, but I want to know a couple things because when we first started talking, did Leanne tell you you know about the whole premise of the podcast and what it's all about?
Yes.
And one component of it is around the LGBTQ plus community, because obviously my son is gay and he's in that community. And I am too, right? As an ally. So when I started talking to Leanne and she was like, right out of the gates, she was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not gay." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Let's let's
Woo.
talk let's talk about that. Is there another letter that I didn't know has come up?"
Yeah. It's disease.
Yeah.
So, but do you have a similar opinion or is yours different? Tell me about it.
My opinion is different in that I know that I'm gay. I've known that I was gay for a very long time since I was probably in middle school. And it took me a long time to be comfortable with my own sexuality, mostly because of what I was exposed to and my learnings as a kid. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and it just wasn't as accepting of a time. So I was very scared to be out as a gay woman. But I
Mhm.
identify as being a lesbian woman, and I have no problem with that. It's I came out when I was 30 years old.
Oh my goodness.
So
Long time.
it took me a long time to come
Wow.
out. And once I did, there was still a process of unlearning for me, unlearning about societal, cultural norms, about what people expect of the LGBTQ community or the stereotypes around it, and then even just my own comfort with all of those things. And it took me a really long time to be able to say I'm gay, um,
Mm.
and and I'm so happy that I came out because it was the fullest expression of myself.
Absolutely.
I'm so proud to say that I'm gay. I'm so, so proud to be part of this community. And I, I don't regret that it took me to that long to come out, but I do know that times are so much better now. And that the
More
fact that
accepting.
the fact that we're having conversations around it, that kids are coming out when they're in middle school or younger, I think it's really empowering and amazing. And I do wish that I would have had more allies. I would have had more role models as a kid, because it would have been, I think I would have come out earlier. I would have been more comfortable, because I knew for a really long time and I was so, so scared.
Yeah. Scared from the perspective with your family, or more scared from,
I mean,
outsiders kind of
looking
looking
back
in?
now, I'm like, what was I so scared of? Because my family's incredibly supportive and my friends were very supportive. I had very few negative reactions. I think you grow up in the 90s as a middle schooler and you hear the term, "Oh, you're so gay." Oh,
Hmm.
people threw around the word faggot all the time.
Yep.
Um, Gay men were ostracized. I mean, the LGBTQ community was oppressed, and um, there's violence and just so much discrimination against
Hmm.
those community members. You see that as a kid. Also, I was, I went to youth group. I went to a typical Christian church as a young child. I went to Wednesday youth group, and there's not a lot of positive messaging around being a gay
No.
member of the community, especially at that time. And so I very much felt like I was bad, and that I
Yeah.
was a bad thing in the Bible. And even though I didn't know exactly what that meant, I knew it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was afraid of. Who knows? It's hard to put a word
Right.
on it when you're young.
Well, and I have a lot of friends in this community, and especially women who talk about this, that they pretended for a long time that they were not gay, so they would, go to prom with boys, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
did all that kind of stuff. Did you do any of that, or were you just kind of on your own?
Oh, 100%.
I love hearing about Steph's boyfriends. It's my
Oh, tell
favorite.
us. I want to hear.
I just found a picture. I wish I could be a fly on the wall on your dates.
I had a lot of boyfriends. I kissed a lot of boys. I dated a lot. Um, I made it very hard for people to question who I was, because I knew that that was my way to hide it. I made it,
Yeah.
I was very good at hiding who I truly was. It was my survival skill. And so it was really hard for people to question, because I was so believable. Um, except for the fact that I'm so obviously gay in so many other ways, that I really love and embrace about myself. But I'm not a girly girl. I'm really like, I'm not super feminine. I definitely don't have a feminine walk.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
You don't
you
like
did
my
have the
spark?
long,
You don't like my sparkle hat? Wait.
I would probably never wear that,
yeah.
Jan.
She did have long hair and she wore like blouses.
I did, and I think
So
I was just trying to fit the mold. I mean, right now I'm wearing a flannel, but it's mostly because I'm working in the garage. But
yeah.
um, yes, I did all the things that straight women probably would do.
Hmm.
But I was incredibly unhappy. I was incredibly unhappy, and I was so lonely.
I bet.
And I'm closest to my mom. My mom is one of my best friends, and I kept it from my mom. And when you keep something like that from somebody who is closest to you, you know you're really hiding like the
Yeah.
truest part of yourself.
She
So
probably knew, FYI.
I think so. And I mean, we talk about it often,
Yeah.
but she also will admit, like, I was hard to question, because I really made it. And I think a lot of people who identify as being gay or lesbian or any of the letters, they
Hmm.
work really hard at hiding those parts of themselves, because it's survival, and it's
Absolutely.
part of being accepted. And so when people come out to you, it doesn't really help when people are like, "Oh, I knew," because then you're like, God, I worked my whole life trying to hide that from
Hide
people.
it. Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
my life depended on it, really. And
Hmm.
so now I'm sharing this part of myself with you,
Hmm.
and just honor it.
Yeah. It's so good. I'm so glad you said that. You guys probably haven't heard this podcast yet, but I did a podcast with these two young girls who are millennials, and it's called Coming Out Happy. That's their Instagram, and they're on YouTube. They have 2 million subscribers. I mean, they're a big deal. And they did a podcast with me, and they're all about, I mean, this should make you proud, Steph. They're all about helping their generation. And actually, they target kind of between the 18 to 35-year-old range, because they talk about how there are women and men that are married and in their 30s that are still in the closet, right? So they talk about, they've created this online community. They're both life coaches, and they've created this community around coming out and coming out happy, and what that looks like and how you do it. And um, it's actually remarkable. And they are a huge inspiration to me. I wanted both of them to be my daughters. I was so excited. And it was just like, one of them, they kind of remind me of the two of you. Like, one of them is, she knew she was gay, and kind of like looked the part, so to speak, but yet was still kind of pretending that she wasn't. And then the other one was, the other one was really religious, came a huge religious background. And so it's a beautiful story. You guys will have to check them out, and you
Oh, we
should
will.
follow them. You should follow them,
We will.
because they are doing exactly what you just said, what you really wish back then there would have been. Allies, there would have been people that would have been like, it's okay
Yeah,
to be
visibility.
who you are,
Yeah, just
so
extreme visibility and just talking about it. And I mean, the difference between Lianne and I, it doesn't, for us, like the label doesn't really matter. It's the honesty, and it's just the sharing of the story. And looking the part is not necessarily one bit important. In fact, I didn't really look my part
yeah.
until I met her.
Until I gave her the haircut she's always wanted.
I mean, she's the one who cut my hair short, and it was the haircut I always wanted. I never had the courage to really do it. And she's the one who helped me find my clothing style that I always wanted, that I never really knew. Like, I never really had the courage to dress a certain way. So
Yeah.
that's part of the unlearning, I think, too.
God, it's such a beautiful story of a contrast between the two of you, yet there's such unity. Like, it's almost like the two of you were waiting for each other to bring out the best in each other.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely not the same.
No.
No, you're not. You're not the same. But you both are very inspiring on the bike. I will say that.
Thank you.
Great.
You both are. And you're different, but you're both really inspiring. So, okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. So, you clearly know, you're like, I am gay, I am out now, and you've been in different relationships, what have you. And then this woman walks into Burn Cycle.
Mm.
Tell me about that.
Well, I didn't initially. I really wasn't a huge fan of her in the beginning because she was coming from a different studio, and it's very.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. She didn't know me.
Didn't know her at all.
So what's that? She wasn't a fan of me.
No, I was not a fan of her. I knew nothing about her other than she was coming from a different studio. But when I did meet her, I was very intrigued. I knew she was married. I knew she had kids. But I was just very intrigued by her because she looked like no one I had ever met. Like, I think she's the most beautiful human on the planet. And so when I saw her, I was like, wow, like, I can't believe I'm meeting one of the most beautiful humans on the planet. This is crazy. And then I got to know her a little bit, and I was like, her voice is just beautiful. Like, I just want to listen to her voice. And then I remember one day we were in the studio, and she was talking to some clients, and she was around the corner, and I was maybe in like the back office, and I heard her laugh, and I thought to myself, God, I'm like crazy about her laugh, but that's not her real laugh. Like, I think that I could make her laugh, her real laugh. Like, that's just not real. That's her show laugh. And then I was like, whoa, what am I think? Like, that's weird. Why would I think that? But we were friends for a long time because she was, going through a really hard breakup, and honestly had no thought that I would ever, she was straight and I was gay. So
Mm-hmm.
there was never, it was never a thought. She was just somebody who I really enjoyed being around, and really couldn't wait to be around, and I didn't really understand why.
I love it. Can I ask you guys a really honest question? And it's probably controversial, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I, I can I?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Well,
Did you did you have people say to either of you, like, I mean, maybe like to you, Steph, did you ever have people say, is she really interested in women, or is this like a phase? Is she going to go back to her husband? And did you hear that, Leanne?
I heard it
all the
so
time.
many times.
And you never did, Steph.
Oh, I heard it all the time to her.
You heard it all the time.
Yeah.
You
I
you
mean,
guys both did. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, it was like, I think for you, it was like, is this a rebound?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
for me, like, are you just a fling? Are you just an experiment? People
Yeah.
use the word experiment, which is really
Well, that's a thing.
offensive in so many
It's a
ways. Yeah.
thing that comes to people's minds because so many people are like, oh my God, I wish I would have messed around with a girl. Like, oh, Leanne's probably just messing around. Like, she wants to know what it feels like to be with a woman. And
Hmm.
it's like we've made that okay. So then we question people when they actually have a connection.
Or like it doesn't, or like it was a really hard relationship with a man, so I'm gonna
Switch
switch
teams.
teams, which is
Yeah.
also just
I wanted to ask that question because it bothers me.
Yeah.
It's something that has always bothered me. And I had a friend who was married, and then she ended up with a woman, and she's really happy with the woman. And I just remember that she got those questions a lot, and it never crossed my mind. But and so it's hard to fathom that someone would ever ask that question, that someone would ever think that, let alone come out and ask that. So I just want to say, for people who are listening, and there's lots of people that are interested in hearing this podcast, that don't ask that.
Don't.
Can you not?
Yeah.
well,
Can
I
you
think,
not ask that?
yeah, I think it speaks to the way that we think about heterosexual relationships
Yes,
and how that's the like normal
that's
thing.
the norm. Hmm.
And everything else is sort of like fun and
Hmm.
or like experiential or
Yeah,
um and
a choice.
time for a shift. Yeah, it's time for a major shift in that.
Yeah,
The other thing that people say often is I'd turn gay for her, or
yeah.
I'd switch teams for her.
That one makes me so mad because people say it about my wife all the time. And like we always talk about, like, I wouldn't say that about your husband. That would not fly if I was like,
Yeah.
Dawn, I'd be straight for your husband. Like, what? I would hope that you would punch me in the fucking face.
Or like even
here,
take it
here,
further. Like I
here
would
comes.
sleep with her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
well, I don't think you would want me talking about your spouse that way
And
or
right.
also, she wouldn't sleep with you. So you
Yeah,
don't say that.
yeah, exactly. No, it's just interesting. I think it's a really good point to bring up, is that, I mean, within the community, obviously I've interviewed a lot of trans and gender, males and females. And they're the most obviously marginalized in this whole thing, right? Especially right now. There's just, it's awful. And a ton of suicide and violence and is within the community, but specifically targeted towards the trans community. And this is one of the things that is frustrating, that I've heard from them, is that they, everybody thinks there's a choice, and that this is all kind of fun, right? Instead
yeah,
of the fact that
like
this is
fetish
because
fetish. People
right.
people describe people act as if it's something like a fantasy for them to play out.
Hmm.
And and they're completely discounting the fact that this is another human and another soul that they're looking at, and it's not just
Exactly.
their fantasy to fulfill. And unfortunately, transgender people are the recipients of that
Hmm.
energy so often, and it's completely wrong. It happens across the spectrum, but it's absolutely, we need to change that.
We do need to change that. But it also is happening, at some level, with kind of what you're talking about. So I wanted to touch on it because I think it's really important and it's relevant to what we are all about. But let's get to some more good stuff. So You have fallen in love with Lianne at first sight. We've already established that.
Yeah.
Look at Steph. She's like, wait a second.
Very,
So you
very
got
true.
so you guys have ended up, marrying. You have this beautiful life, and you both are very successful in your own right. Steph, I know you're acupuncturist. I need to come see you.
You say that every time, Don.
I know. God, you know what? I got to find the time to do it.
She's going to hang up. She's going to order the book. She's going to book a hair appointment
I'm
and
gonna.
an acupuncture appointment.
I have a lot of things
Yeah.
to do when we are done with
And
this.
all
I
these
have.
listeners are going to ask you how all those things went.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do accountable.
Accountability buddies.
Okay, I'm going to do it. And I want to say on a side note that the two of you, I probably forgot about this, but during the initial COVID um, stage, you actually were our coaches for my business with my employees.
That's right.
It was great.
Yeah.
We loved it.
That was, I mean, you're tough. Some of those moves, like the chair with the tricep, I was like, okay, I'm done. No, and you and the burpees, Lianne, I am over that.
You know what? You miss me.
So let's fast forward and bring back before you came on board into the conversation, Steph, the discussion around the breast cancer discussion for Lianne. So we've established that there was a lot of, kind of shock. Obviously, you were completely, caught off guard, frightened, all of the normal things that you feel when you hear that word. And of course, that is just your own stuff that you have to deal with. Then you have to worry about all of the other people that you have to make them feel comfortable
Yeah.
with your situation,
Yeah.
right?
I just immediately decided that I wasn't going to make them feel comfortable because it wasn't about them and it was about me. And I was like, this is the problem because, you're diagnosed and you get this initial outpouring of sympathy. And then the second outpouring is gifts, right? It's like, fuck cancer coloring books and socks and like fuzzy this and then books. And so I remember reading this book about a young woman who had cancer. She was like 30 or 27 or something way too young. And I was reading it and I'm like, I'm not even in treatment yet. And I know that this isn't painting the picture of what cancer is because society wants it to be this pink, fluffy ribbon cancer walk thing where all women are like breasties. And I was like, I don't subscribe. This isn't how it goes. And so from that moment, I'm like, I'm going to tell them how it actually is because I want people to be prepared if this ever happens to them or somebody that they love, that they'll know what to do and they'll know how to handle it and they'll know what's coming for them because I was like, this is a lie. Like, I'm not going to put lipstick on and handle my cancer. Like lipstick doesn't fix anything at this point.
So that's what motivated you to write this book.
100%. I mean, that and the fact that, the other situations that we've talked about that I went through, I didn't feel like I had read anything or been around people that had spoken honestly about those things as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't feel seen. I don't feel connected. I don't feel prepared for any of this because it's all been either swept under the rug or totally sugar coated.
Yeah, it's like people want women to be badass and people love when women are tough, but they don't actually want to know the details of it and they don't want to see the brutality or the gruesome days. They don't You want it behind a screen so that it's polite.
Well, and feminine. They want to, like, especially with breast cancer, they want to make it so feminine. And I'm like, I know plenty of men that have had breast cancer. It doesn't have to be this soft, feminine thing. Like, it's cancer. It could kill you. Like, I very much knew that, like, I could go down at any point. And that's just the reality of it. So let's not talk about it like this little compact mirror that you sent me that is all pink is going to make this go away.
You actually normalized it, is what I think you did. You normalized it. Yeah.
I mean, it was like, everyone's like, why you? Like, how could this happen to you? You're so young, you're so healthy, you're so fit. And I'm like, totally, that sucks for me. But also, why not me? If it could happen to me, it could happen to you. And that just sucks. But we need to like come to terms with that.
Leanne, I hate to tell you this, but the reason it happened to you is for the reason we're sitting here right now.
I love you, Dawn.
I
Like,
mean,
your sparkly hat.
I mean, I'm just going to call it like it is. You know, you were, this was manifested for you and it was, you were called to it. That's why I started this podcast out of nowhere.
Okay.
And this is why you ended up with breast cancer and you're a survivor from that, a thriver is
Yeah.
probably a better
I
word.
mean, I don't even know what word I like, but definitely not survivor.
I mean, you're thriving through it, right?
Crushing
And I mean, it's 2 years now.
Yes. 2 years was in September.
Mhm.
But the fact, like, let me just break it down because I think this is kind of interesting. The fact that like you took everyone on a journey, at least on social media from where I was sitting and in your classes, to here I am looking like the rest of you,
Mhm.
to I have this disease inside my body that's ravishing my body, to now I am talking about it, to I'm now going to shave my head and I'm going to still teach your class and I'm going to still show up for you if you show up for me, which by the way is super motivating for
Mhm.
anyone, right? And if there were people that didn't want to come because they didn't want to look at you with your head shaved, then that's their journey, right? That's their work that they have to do in this lifetime. It's not yours to have. It's not yours to keep. So then you go through that whole thing and you even had pictures which I loved of like your surgery,
Yeah.
the implants and everything. I was like, this is so you were making it feel normal.
Yeah.
You were giving it a voice, you were giving it a face, you were bringing it to life. And then you write a book. I'm like, wait, now she's got a book. Hasn't she said enough?
No,
No.
well, Instagram only gives you so much, you know? And I'm like, I have so much more to say to pound this home. Like,
You do. And so then when you wrote the book, I was like, bravo. Like, I am so thrilled. And I love the title. I love the title so much. How did you come up with that title?
well, at first it was going to be called Shit You Didn't Think It Would Happen to You. But then the more I thought about it, even though that's like pretty much what the book is, I was like, I want people to be able to leave this on their coffee table. And if there's small children around, like, I don't want them
Yeah.
saying shit all day because of my book. Um, so I was just thinking about, because I write about the divorce and, the coming out and all of the things. And what really pounded the title home was when I got cancer and people are sending me flowers all the time. And I'm like, why the fuck would you send somebody flowers? Like, I'm dying, the flowers are dying. Thanks for the reminder. This is awesome. And it was just a reminder of people don't know what to say and
Mhm.
people don't know what to do when they get uncomfortable.
Okay, let's talk about that. What should people say to someone, in your opinion? And then I want to hear what Steph's thoughts are on this too. If you find out, if someone calls you and says, hey, I think I might have cancer, or hey, I have cancer. This just happened to me, by the way, with a friend. So I'm really curious to hear what you would say.
Oh man, I want to know what you said. I want to know if you failed the
I'm
test.
scared. I'm scared to tell you.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, I will start this out by saying that we have all fucked up and we've all said the wrong thing. And I know that I can, now that I've been in this cancer community very actively for the last couple of years, I actually know that I am the majority and how I feel about what should be said. And there are
Okay.
people that want to be told like, "Oh, my aunt had it and she's fine," but the majority of us don't want to hear that.
Yes.
What I had one girl reach out to me who had had breast cancer like a year before I did, and she was the first person that said something to me that actually felt good. And she said, "Hey girl, I heard about your diagnosis and all I have to say is I am so sorry this is happening to you. This sucks." And I was like, "I feel seen. Thank you," because up until that
Yeah.
point it was like, "Oh, my cousin had it and she's fine now," or "Oh, I know someone that has had that," or "You're going to be fine. You're going to beat this," which I'm like, "You don't
Yeah.
know that. I don't know that. Like, this isn't a cold. This isn't a 5K." Like, so
You're
I,
so
you're
strong.
so strong.
You're
Like, of course
brave.
I'm strong. And you're brave. Like, I don't have a choice. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
a choice. Like, you
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 don't.
want to live, so you fucking fight the thing. So I think the best thing that people can say is just like acknowledge that it sucks say, I'm so sorry. And if you don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, rather than ghosting somebody.
Yes.
Ask, how can I show up for you? Because I
Yes.
guarantee that sending flowers or a cancer coloring book is just going to remind them that they're not normal right now. So, can I bring you dinner? Like, can I clean your rug? What,
Mhm.
just, but the biggest thing, like with the disease itself, is like, I see you and I'm sorry and this sucks. And I'm not going to try to relate because I have no idea what this is going through, what this feels like for you. And I'm not going to
Mhm.
try to tell you that, like, I'm not going to try to make it about me by saying I know somebody that had it.
Yeah.
Make sense?
That makes sense. What if you're someone who had it? What if you are someone who's gone through it?
Well,
And
I
what
I
do you say
have
then?
I have women reach out to me a lot. And this is hard because I don't really want to live in that space anymore.
Got
Um,
it.
they're looking for a support system. And so a lot of times I'll be like, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. My greatest advice for you is to find somebody that's going through your treatment plan right now, because every cancer is different.
Very
Mhm.
different.
And everything changes year to year. So I can't tell you how you're going to feel. Also, I'm not in your body. Like, we had a different diagnosis. So it's more of the same. Like, I'm so sorry. I get how alone you feel, but I can't be your person.
Mhm.
People don't realize that breast cancer is staged and graded differently. There are multiple characteristics that will change a treatment plan.
It depends on genetics and age, how they treat
Health
you.
Mm.
history, your physician. There's so many different factors that no two women really have the same treatment plan. It's very rare.
And they think this way because society is like, oh, breasties. We're in this giant pink sisterhood because we all had cancer in our boobs. But it's like, no, they're all very different. So, yes, like, we did all have cancer in our boobs, but it doesn't make everybody's experience the same.
Mhm. Yeah. Steph, what did you raised your hand at one point. What did you say wrong?
I probably said a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
um,
Leanne's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, just in general, we all have before
We
we,
all do. We all
yeah,
do.
yeah,
yeah.
But
it's normal.
since you rose your hand, tell us.
My famous thing that I say that Lianne hates is "It's going to be okay."
My
She
husband does that to me. Oh my
hates
God, I hate it when
when I
he
say
says
that.
that.
But for me, when somebody says that to me, that feels very comforting because honestly, like, I truly believe that. And I was raised with people saying it's going to be okay. And that always felt comforting to me. But I absolutely see and recognize why that wasn't comforting. And we've had a lot of conversations around it. And I also see how a lot of people feel a little bit invalidated with that statement because it almost feels like you're whitewashing the whole situation and
Mhm.
kind of glazing it over. So
Yeah,
we
and
have,
we're just sitting there with something in our body that's literally trying to kill us
yeah,
and literally could kill us.
yeah.
And then someone's like, "You're gonna be okay." Like, that's what I say to my daughter when she stubs her toe.
I mean,
Right.
I
It's
wasn't that cavalier,
No, but
but when she was going through treatment and having side effects, and I would say things like, "We're going to get through this," and
sure.
stuff like that. And I think that in certain moments that did not feel helpful. Um, but also, I was learning as I was going through this because
Sure.
this was like the love of my life, best friend, and I was literally watching her deteriorate in front of my eyes going through chemo. And half of the time I was like, I have to believe that it's going to be okay, or I am going to freak out on the nurse who's trying to put that carcinogenic drug into her bloodstream. And I can't
Mhm.
do that because they will kick me out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, this is really important. I'm so glad we're talking about it together because it's not just about, Leanne's disease and the journey. I mean, you're a big part of it, right? The person that's supporting
yeah,
the other person. I mean, this is very much why I love this story because it's so similar to supporting and loving someone with a drug addiction, like I am with my son. Someone who is, in a situation where I am trying my best to understand, although I don't understand, and I'm saying all the wrong things,
yeah,
and I'm sometimes doing the wrong things, right? And you don't always think about like that person's feelings, but also like how my husband supports me supporting my son
Yeah.
and loving my son. So it's very similar. And I can imagine that I mean, your intentions were of the best,
Well, I
but
think something that's really, really hard is simply the fact that I will never have a full understanding of her experience because I wasn't in her body.
yeah,
And that's that is a huge thing for people who love each other. And it's really hard to have those separate experiences, those parallel but separate experiences, because for me, I want to help and I want to fix and I want to be there. And the truth is, there were certain places I couldn't go with her and I couldn't be there mentally or physically. And that's something you just have to let go of the control and just hope that everything is going to work out for the best. And it's a really hard thing to let go of that control and be like, I'm going to trust this process, even
hmm,
though I don't fully believe in it, and
yeah.
hope that we come out on the other side together.
Especially as an acupuncturist. I mean,
I really struggled,
that must have been so
really
hard.
struggled with the chemo. I mean, we both did.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to inject poison into their body 17 times.
And it's terrifying when you see a nurse in a full hazmat suit coming up to administer these chemo drugs. You know, you know that it's not a good thing.
Hmm.
And you're sitting there together, trusting she's the one with the needle in her vein and I'm the one watching it. So
Yeah.
it's just so layered,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
when you wrote this book, did you write it? How quickly did you write it?
I wrote the whole cancer portion while I was going through treatment. And you can feel that. It's pretty
Intense?
raw. Yeah.
Good.
But that's what I wanted. I mean, it's hard to read if you've had cancer. It's probably a little bit triggering, but probably feels really good to know that somebody's saying it. Um, and if you haven't had cancer, it's hard to read. it's,
Yeah.
but let's normalize it. This is what people go through every single day. And this is
Hmm.
what people we know, like who we know, are going to go through. Like maybe it is going to be us.
Hmm.
I wanted to know. So I'm like, here, no, people, read it.
Don't you want it to kind of get to the point where if someone's diagnosed with cancer, automatically people don't look at you like you have a death sentence,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
they look at you like, okay, well, what's your game plan?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? How are you going to treat it? Are you going to do
Yeah.
radiation, chemo? You going to not take anything? What do you know? You're going to do holistic? Like, what's your, like, just that whole, because that's the same exact thing, ladies, that happens when someone finds out that your son is a heroin addict.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, not that that's ever going to get normalized, but I just commend you both for loving each other in such a beautiful way to be able to just say, fuck it, I'm going to write something that is so authentic and so raw that it's going to feel normal.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really the best way to sum it up? I haven't even read it and I already know.
Oh man, you're gonna love it. Yeah. I mean, somebody had to say it. So why not me? I guess. I'm just sick of everybody sugarcoating everything. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a taboo thing. Like, I was ashamed that I had cancer. I was embarrassed. I'm like, why? I didn't give it to myself. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have a choice here. All I have a choice now is how I move forward with it.
Yeah. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful story. And man, I could just sit here and look at the two of you and talk to the two of you all day long because it's just, I mean, the love that the two of you have is let's just pull that aside from everything else we're talking about, is just so beautiful to see, so beautiful to watch. Um, but you think about how this all came to be, and there's always a bigger plan, right? and the universe has stuff in store. There's a reason we met.
Yeah.
There's a reason that we're both doing what we're doing right now to help people. We're both doing that. You know, we both had different jobs, and we are now in a different world of helping people and get the word out,
Yeah.
empowering people, right? Giving people a voice. And you guys are in totally different worlds, and you meet and you leave, you leave that other life, you marry, and now you have breast cancer. And then it's like, so all of those things are a part of a bigger plan.
Yeah.
And you're just you're being used for that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, people are always like, are you mad that you got sick? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, totally sucked. But I mean, look where we are now.
Yeah. You're the perfect person to have breast cancer.
Yeah. I mean, I'd prefer to not have it again. But first time we got, we did it. And some amazing things came out of it.
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself through the whole process, Lianne?
Whew, I learned even more how to not keep my mouth shut. And um, I think I learned more of what I wanted and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to feel, because you learn that life really can be short. And
Yeah.
that's a little scary.
Absolutely. It's scary. Totally. What'd you learn, Steph?
I mean, I'll say what I observed in her was like stepping into her own courage and voice and power beyond what I think she ever thought she could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just watching her as she was going through chemo, and then the year after that, continuing to just rebuild and heal. It's like she got bigger and bigger and bigger in spirit and energy. And I felt like that was part of what she was learning.
Yeah.
And for me, it gave me a lot of courage to be more who I am, watching her be who she was,
Mm.
and to love really openly and honestly, even through really hard shit, and to have hard conversations more than I was probably comfortable with before.
It's like it like goes back to less hiding,
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
like the point, like
Yeah.
I had spent so many years in this marriage where I was like hiding, and I didn't feel like I was being seen, or like my partner was proud of who I was, or that my voice mattered. And then like you go through something like this and you're like, oh no, 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 like you deserve to be heard. Like you get to feel these big things. You get to go there. Like this is your time
Mm-hmm.
to do this. So I think that's totally right.
And I spent my whole life hiding who I was. And then I finally meet her, and we finally get to this place, and I feel like I'm just starting to like be who I really am. And then I feel like I could lose her. You
Yeah.
don't, you don't mince words anymore, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't put off the trips, and you don't dwell on the little things, and you don't worry about less stress, more joy. It's like really
Yeah.
what it comes down to.
I love that. I
You
mean,
know,
that
you
is
just don't know. I
yeah,
mean,
you just don't know.
we were in our 30s. Like
Early
Mm-hmm.
30s,
you're
baby.
supposed to be you're supposed to be doing all these things, and here we are thinking about what would happen. And so that changes your life.
Do you remember what I said to you, Lianne, when we talked on the phone? I was like, I think that you have a career in something else. And do you remember that conversation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think I'm psychic. So
No, and I love that
what
about
did
you.
I
It's really
say?
helpful for my life. Now I'm selling books.
No, what do you remember?
Yeah, you said that I would be a great life coach.
Yeah.
I said you guys, yeah, both would be
And
great life coaches.
what we're doing,
That's what
Dawn.
we're
That
doing
is what
now.
we're doing. So
Thank you for listening to me. No, I'm kidding.
tell me what else I should do
I mean,
now.
it's all about me taking the credit here.
Yeah, totally.
Clearly. No, I think, I deal with I work with so many life coaches, empowerment coaches, spiritual coaches, man, and there are so many of them out there, and they all have a gift of from their journeys of many years of being wounded but not broken, sometimes broken, but most of the people that make amazing coaches are people who've gone through hell and back
Yeah.
once or more in their life and have figured out a way to articulate to other people how they can help them and how
Yeah.
they can help themselves, right? So you guys are going to be amazing at that.
Thank you,
You
John.
are.
A lot
And
of
I'm going to hire you for that too.
Yeah, let's go. What else? What else? Can I cook you dinner?
So I have a lot on my list of what I need to get done, but just to wrap this up, I mean, we have just had such a wonderful time together. The book is called Please Don't Send Me Flowers. I feel like Barbara Streisand should be singing that on the background.
That'd be awesome.
Wouldn't that be great?
Color. Yeah. Yo, Barb.
Um, and it's just a beautiful, it's just going to be a beautiful story. I feel like it's kind of it's your coming out, but I also feel like it's just a beautiful love. It's going to be a beautiful love story. Like there's going to be something in there that's going to make me feel that the messaging that you have applies to other things, not just cancer.
I mean, there's literally, I mean, the book is in 3 parts. It's like divorcing, feeling, you know, suppressed and like, you know, emotional abuse. And then this whole like falling in love with a woman and coming out. And then it's cancer. So the book is threefold, but I will say there is literally something in there for everybody, whether you've experienced these things or you've seen it or you know somebody or you don't yet. Like,
Yeah, it's a lot about like just being human and the
Yeah.
universal themes of being a human.
I love it. You must be so proud, Steph.
Oh my God. You have no idea.
You're beaming. How do people find you on, well, we know how to find the book, but
Yep.
how do people find you, like if they want to connect with you on Instagram or anything?
So my Instagram is just my name, Lianne Saffer, Lianne. And then I have a website, liannesaffer.com, and you can email me from there. And then the
Okay.
book is on Amazon right now. Will eventually be other places, but we're getting there. Slow and
And if
steady.
you're in Portland and you want an acupuncturist, how do I find you, Steph? Besides, I'm going to call you, but where's
Yeah.
your website?
The website is acupuncturenwpdx.com. It's Acupuncture Northwest is my clinic.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm Steph_Saffer on Instagram.
Okay. Saffer is Saffer.
Yep.
And you're also at Burn Cycle still.
Yes.
We are.
You guys can stream with us all day long.
Yeah.
Till we're in person.
Yep.
How did I
now?
Say that again?
It's all digital right now.
It's all digital. I know. How did I get so lucky to have met you guys?
I mean, maybe it's Carl. Maybe Carl's the divine intervention right there.
She's pretty amazing. I do love her. But I think I think we created this, I think this was just meant to be. So thank you so much for being on the show. You guys are remarkable. You have a true love story. I appreciate your authenticity and rawness, and so glad you're feeling well.
Thank you.
And yeah, I don't even want to say goodbye, but I will. I'm going to go book some appointments.
Are you going to send me one of those hats or?
Oh, my sparkle hat, because you want it.
Arizona to get them.
You know what? Don't be a little bee. I know you're being a little bee right now. You don't love my hat. Do you like this one?
I love your hat on you.
That's her burn hat.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What?
Great.
Yeah.
I think this is the first hat I ever bought at Burn Cycle.
You know what? We could merge the two and just write burn and glitter.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? And then do you see my sweatshirt that I think you're going to like this? I'm going to stand up so you can see it. Look what it says.
Yeah. Shine your light.
Yes, Dawn.
Is that a good way to end the podcast? Shine your light, people.
Shine your light, baby girl.
Great.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.